The following broadcast is brought to you by the iGolf Sports Network. The Women of Golf show is sponsored by the iGolf Sports Network and Golf Tips magazine. iGolf Sports is a live stream broadcast and media production company providing quality programming designed to attract the golfing enthusiast. And Golf Tips, the game's most in-depth instruction magazine, with insightful reviews on the latest equipment, tips from top teaching professionals, helping you improve your game from tee to green. Good morning, welcome to the Women of Golf, the #1 women's golf show around the world, with host Ted Odorico and Cindy Miller. Join them as they interview some of the best players from the Epson, LPGA and Legends Tour, and so many others helping to elevate women's golf. So without further ado, here are your hosts, Ted and Cindy.
All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Season 12 of the Women Golf Show. I'm Ted Odorico, and right alongside, of course, each and every week is none other than Legends Tour and LPGA professional Cindy Miller, and we are your hosts here on the Women of Golf Show. Good morning, Cindy. How are you?
Doing great, Ted. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. We're really excited this morning. We've got a great guest joining us, Luke Otto, the content producer for the Epson Tour. We'll tell you just a little bit about him in a moment. And then a little bit later on, Cindy and I are going to jump into the No B.S. zone, and we're going to talk about better ball striking. That's, I know, in Cindy's wheelhouse on how to hit it straight, and we're going to talk a little about that in the second half of the broadcast. But let me tell you a little bit about Luke. He's originally from Livonia, I believe that's how you pronounce it, from Detroit, Michigan area. He joined the LPGA in 2023 and is in his 5th year as a professional golf, and he graduated from Ferris State University in the professional golf management program. And as I mentioned, he is the content producer for the Epson Tour. So, Cindy, let's welcome our special guest this morning, Luke Otto.
Good morning.
Morning. How are you?
Doing great.
We're doing fantastic. Thank you for joining us this morning, Luke. I know you're busy, so we're gonna try to keep it as tight as possible so that we know you got lots of stuff to do. But just very quickly, you were just mentioning before we came on where you are now. You guys are at the next Epson Tour event. So where are you guys set up right now?
Yeah, so we're in right now we're in St. George, Utah. Head over down to Hurricane, Utah, and that'll be our Copper Rock Championship. So it's our last event here in our 4-week stretch out west, and then we have a few weeks off, and then we'll head up to the Mitten State for some golf in Michigan. So it'll be a pretty good little break, but right back to golf after that.
Yeah, it's always good to get a little bit of a break in between. So let me start this off, Cindy, if you don't mind. I'm just got just a couple of things, and then I'll pass it over to you. So maybe you could give us, Luke, since you're now into several weeks now into the new season, that maybe just give us a little bit of a recap of what's been going on, just to sort of bring our audience up to speed. So what have been some of the events that have happened over the last several weeks, and what has been sort of the response from players? Have they really, I know some of them are repeat, but new events have happened in the last few weeks, and if so, what's been some of the response from the players?
Yeah, so our one kind of bigger event that was added to the schedule was the Reliance Matrix Championship presented by Epson, and that was out in Las Vegas. So that was the first time we've been out there, and I was at Spanish Trail Country Club, and that was a very cool venue to go out there and play. Weather got a little dicey there in the final round, but got the tournament in, but that was awesome. And then, yeah, the season's been great. I mean, I don't think we've had a repeat winner during one season since, I think, 2023. So it's just constantly, new winners every week. It's just a lot of good golf out there. So it's hard to win out here twice, it seems like. So that's kind of been the trend over the past 2 seasons, it almost feels like.
Did they make the, I know, again, you play, obviously, other than Las Vegas venue, which was new to the schedule this year, but I know you're playing a lot of some of the other courses and things like that. Do they try to make it different each year, a different experience a little bit? Like, do they toughen up the course each year? If they see last year, maybe it was a little bit easier. Do they do that? I know sometimes they'll do that on the PGA and the LPGA Tour, where they'll actually kind of say, okay, it was a little bit easier last year. We're going to toughen it up this year. Do they do that at all, or do they pretty much keep it the same?
Yeah, it depends on each tournament. Some tournaments are just historically known for being a little tougher out there. Our tournament out in Albany, the Casilla Championship, that one you're usually hovering mid single digits to win the tournament, which is makes it mid single digits under par to win the tournament, which is very rare out here. You're usually somewhere in the, 10, 11, 12, maybe some teens area for a 3 round event. Even last week, was a cool week at TPC Scottsdale. Sophia Popoff ended up winning, who, major champion, and then it was her first win on Mother's Day as well after becoming a mother. So that was a pretty
Oh,
cool
wow.
little event there. And then she got emotional as everything. That was cool. But that's another event that they do a great job of, what do we need to do to make this event maybe a little harder, a little more challenging, but still keep it fair for the players and make sure that everything is up to standard. So, yeah, there's a few events that historically, are just known for being a little tougher, the course itself, and that's just how, the tournament wants the course to be played is a little bit tougher. So, kind of along the same lines as like how the USGA does it, where it's, US Open, we want it to be tough. That's kind of their mentality. So, it's not every week, but it is nice to have those sprinkled in there every now and then just to give the athletes some good challenges out there.
Yeah, and you guys have changed the schedule a little bit this year. You're having a little bit more break in between some of the, like, I know past seasons, maybe not last year, but a few seasons back, where they had multiple events in a row to the point where some of the players were saying, "Hey, we need a little bit of a break here." So are they trying to schedule out and sort of plug in some extra long breaks in between a group of events so that the players aren't getting burnt out, and obviously have a little bit of time to relax a little bit between some of the schedule? Have they done that
Yeah,
this year?
yeah, absolutely. And a big thing has been the pod system, is what we've been calling it, where you're not traveling from Florida to Oregon to you know
Right.
down to Arizona. You're kind of, once you're in an area, you're kind of there. Like our West Coast swing, you could realistically drive to every event. Sure, some might be a little bit longer than others, but you can drive to every event. And then we go up to Michigan. You have 3 events in Michigan. You can pretty much get to every event relatively easy there. And then out east, and same thing. So it's just kind of trying to make it not only have those breaks, but make the travel kind of less of a burden on the players, because that is one of the tougher aspects that not a lot of people think about when it comes to professional golf, is how you get everywhere and how much time it takes and how energy consuming that can be.
Yeah, you definitely don't want the players showing up to an event because they've just had a super long drive and they're tired and exhausted and not able to get up to par, so to speak. Cindy, go ahead. I know you got some questions.
What will the players do after this event with 3 weeks off? Will some of them go back home? Will they just take their time to get to Michigan?
Yeah,
What
so
will
most
they
of them will
do?
go back home. After 4 weeks on the road, I'm sure some of them are gonna take some time off of golf for a few days and just kind of relax, decompress. I know a lot of them are some gym rats, so they'll get in the gym and work out and do all that. But then after a few days off, if you were to kind of candidly ask the players, they're itching to get back on the course, so they'll get back and go see their coaches, go see whoever it may be, maybe go test out some new clubs, or if there's one thing specifically that they feel like they could have improved on over the first 4 weeks, then they'll do that. So it's nice for them to have those kind of 2 weeks in between, that you can still have a little bit of that rest, but you can also still get some practice in that maybe you can't get on the road when you're kind of in tournament mode.
Now, I know that next week is a Legends Tour event at the same venue. Yes?
Yes, it is. Yeah, it's the second year in a row that they've done that out there in Copper Rock. Yeah.
Are some of the players already out there, or have you not seen them yet?
I haven't made it to the course yet. We just got in yesterday, so we haven't quite made it to the course. Last year, I think there was maybe one or two that were out there for like the final round of the Epson event on Saturday. So that has come, and then we even had Christy Kerr play last week at the Carlisle event in Arizona. So she's going to be signed up for the Legends event. So she was getting like a practice
The
tournament in,
reps
trying
in.
to, exactly, yeah,
That
getting some
stinker.
swings in, and she'll be at the Legends event. So but yeah, there's usually one or two players that get out there, because there's a lot to do out here too. I mean, Zion's only a half hour away, Zion National Park, so there's a little bit to do. So some people use it as a little bit of a mini vacation as well, get out there, go see some stuff out in Utah. And then they came out and watched some of the players on the Epson for that final round here in Copper Rock.
It's killing me because I'm going to Daytona. I'm being inducted in the LPGA Hall of Fame on Sunday, and
Oh, wow.
I couldn't get to Utah. I had to withdraw, and I'm like, oh.
I mean, that's a good thing to miss it for, though. If
No,
there's something to miss
I
it
know.
for,
I've got a good excuse, but it's like,
yeah.
oh. So have fun, you
I
brat.
will. Yeah, it's one of our favorite stops. It's beautiful out here. It's
I've
really
heard, and I saw the pictures. So shut up.
cool.
I'll stop whining now. Okay, have fun. Ted, go ahead.
So did I hear right? Did you say Christy Kerr is going to be in the Legends Tour?
Yeah, the
Yeah,
brats can be 45. So that's the other thing. Alan,
That old.
my husband did say, you know what, you should go look in the mirror because you are an old fart. And I'm like, okay, shut up.
I was thinking there. I mean, I knew she wasn't, a spring chicken, but I thought Legends Tour. Wait a minute, they must have dropped the age or something. Wow,
They did.
Well,
I'm
now I
like,
feel
hi.
old.
Yeah,
Now I
you
feel
are
really
old, and I'm really old. So fine.
Now, so Luke, let's talk a little bit about you. So tell us a little bit what your title is, a content producer, obviously for the Epson Tour, and I know you're part of the LPGA organization as well. So exactly what do you do? What is your job? What is basically the function of a content producer, just for the
Yeah,
audience?
so we have three different content producers. I'm kind of more the communications lead as our content role, so I handle a lot of the communication with outside media and maybe external media who show up, and then kind of the process after the event of kind of, I guess you could say, being the liaison between the player and the media after the event and doing interviews and such like that with the media. And then I do a lot of the writing for the website as well. So a lot of the written pieces that go out, while Isaiah and Hunter are two other content producers. They handle a lot of the more video and photo focused stuff that goes out for us. So we kind of have the three content producers, but we do all kind of overlap because
Sure.
sometimes 4 weeks writing on the road, your brain can get a little fried writing for 4 weeks. So I do have
Right.
a little bit of background of doing some photos and stuff like that. So we'll rotate kind of in and out and whatever some people is. And, same thing where Isaiah's great at video and he's great at photos, but sometimes he's focused on one. And he's like, I just want to go do photo. And then someone else just
Right.
picks up the video for that week. It's just trying to avoid burnout is kind of our big thing. And it's nice to have two or three people that can kind of do a little bit of everything. So that way you're not feeling like you're just pigeonholed in the one thing for the whole season.
Yeah, that would get a little bit, it's variety is the spice of life, as they say. What's the
Mm-hmm.
hardest part of your job? What do you think is the most difficult? I mean, obviously you mentioned earlier traveling can be a little bit, or has been in the past, a little bit tougher. Is that one of the hardest or most difficult parts of your job, do you think, is just having to get to the venues all the time?
Yeah, I would say that's it's definitely difficult. It's one of I guess the one of the things you don't really think about when you have the job because I do like the travel, I like being out, but it's kind of blending that with work at the same time, making sure you kind of have your phone on you or whatever it may be to answer emails when you're in the airport or however you may be going around. But I would say, like we were talking about, burnout can be one of the most difficult things just because 4 weeks on the road and sometimes you're working 12, 14-hour days because you're there almost from sun up to sundown. I think that can be sometimes the most difficult, and we've done a good job, I think, at the LPGA of making sure that that doesn't happen as much as possible. If you're having a little burnout and whatever it may be and you have a little bit most of your work done for that day, they tell you, hey, go home, go do something, like go
Yeah.
get your mind off work because you are working some long hours and you're almost working 7 days a week when you're on the road. So you can have those days where it's just kind of, hey, get out of here at noon, get out of here at 1, go take a half day, go do something and just, enjoy being on the road. I think that's a lot of the stuff that, the burnout is one thing you don't think about because like if you're in this role, you kind of have to like golf to a certain extent because if you don't, it's going to be a very tough job for you. So it is nice to be out here and doing what you do, but no matter how much you like something, when you're doing it that much, it's sometimes like, okay, I need a quick break from it. And I think that's one thing that might be difficult that not maybe a lot of people think about.
I have
Yeah.
to ask. I have to ask. So you went to Ferris State and you probably majored in how to be a club pro, and now
Yeah,
you're
so
doing
professional
something
golf.
totally, yeah,
Yeah.
totally different, and you're writing, and that doesn't come with how to be professional golf management. So how did you learn to write and write for the LPGA?
Yeah, so it's just something I've always been interested in, just media in general. So like it's not going to sound great, but in high school, whatever it is, sitting in class, have my phone behind our book and reading, sports articles or whatever it is on my phone instead of actually reading the book. So it's just something I've always been
Busted.
interested in. Yeah, and then but I actually got pretty lucky. I worked at Arcadia Bluffs Golf Club up in Michigan. Pretty really nice course up there. But my first assistant up there, his dad, used to be the director of a local news station up there called 9 and 10 News. And I kind of mentioned, I was like, I'm not sure the head pro, assistant pro, that teaching pro life is for me. But I didn't want to get out of golf because I really enjoyed golf. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be somewhere in the sport. And
Mm.
I was like, is there any way I can get an internship at the news station out there during the summertime when I'm at Ferris and it's a 30-minute drive down the road? So I did that for 2 summers and I learned a lot there as far as just
Oh, that's great.
structured writing and whatever it is and just doing stuff like that. And I will say sports writing is not as structured as maybe news writing is. Everything has to be very precise in a way where I would almost call sports writing is more a blog style writing because you're trying to connect more to the audience instead of just give them general information, which is a lot of news writing is just putting out information and making sure everything is correct and precise and all that. Where golf, you're trying to tell a little bit of the personality of the players and how they're doing, and it comes across a little bit better when it's more of a blog style, more little bit informal. You still want it to look professional, but you still want to have that little bit of connection with the reader. So it was a very good place for me to learn, and then just kind of transition that. I worked at mini tours as well, so my first couple years after graduation, I worked for the Annika Women's All Pro Tour and the All Pro Tour. So got to meet some very good people there, very cool people there, and learn a little bit more about, writing in golf because, first time writing, not the easiest thing in golf when you don't
No.
really know what you're doing. So when
Right.
it's just, like you said, get reps in was the big thing. Just write and make mistakes and sometimes it's not going to be good. Same thing on the golf course. You're going to hit some bad shots. You're going to write some bad
Right.
articles. It is what it is. Just get over it and keep going and things just slowly get better. So that's kind of how it just all ended up. I want to say I kind of got a little lucky because I'm sure that doesn't happen for everybody, but it worked out. So I'm happy it did.
Good for you. Good for you. That's great.
Yeah, it's good. I just want to add a quick disclaimer in there for anybody that should tune in from Ferris State. Luke did have his nose in the book. Unfortunately, there was a phone behind it. So I just want to say, hey, he was kind of just studying something else, which obviously served you well. But all kidding aside, what's the most rewarding? Obviously, I think you've kind of laid that out. Is that the most rewarding? As you just really enjoy, putting these pieces together and writing the articles and so forth? Would you say that's the most rewarding part of your job, or is it maybe even just meeting a lot of the players?
Yeah, and I think that kind of goes hand in hand. I have a unique kind of perspective when it comes to the players because I get to sit down with them a lot of the times and talk with them a little bit more about just golf, not just golf, about their life and how they got into golf, how they became a professional golfer, who got them into professional golf, all that little stuff. And you kind of see the little bit behind the scenes of them. And then, maybe when you see one of those players win, a lot of them become your friends out here. So, it's cool seeing that, because you know how hard they work. I mean, I played
Sure.
sports my whole life growing up, not to that extent. And you know how hard you worked. You amplify that, and that's where they're at. So when you see that happen, you can almost see the relief on their face, when that final putt goes in. And it's kind of just
Yeah.
like that little just sense of, all of it was worth it to a certain extent. And that's always, I think, one of the most rewarding things, especially, like I said, when you know the players, you get to know them, being on the road with them for 20 weeks out of the year. I think that's
Yeah.
probably one of the more rewarding things, just seeing that, because everyone who's played a sport knows how difficult getting over kind of that hump is to get into the winner's circle.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of pressure for sure. I mean, Cindy and I have talked to a lot of the players over the years, and there's some times that they are, riding that cloud and just, cloud nine, they're happy, excited, pardon me. And then there's other times where they're just, thinking, do I want to keep doing this? Maybe I just need to quit and do something else because it's just becoming so hard and frustrating. So I'm sure you hear a lot of that when you're talking with them. You mentioned a few moments back, you said that you haven't really had a repeat winner so far this season, but are there any standouts? Is there anybody that's really sort of shining in their play so far, even if they haven't won every event, that they're really pulling it together and you think, okay, this young lady is going to be a force to be reckoned with this season?
Yeah, there's a few. Maybe one that hasn't won yet is Haley Cooper. She's just been arguably the most consistent player out here. I think of the 17 rounds she's played, 15 of them have been under par for the year. So she may not be,
Wow.
yeah, she may not be, in contention every week, which it feels like she is, but she's always hanging around. It's hard to not see her name somewhere up near the leaderboard. And then, one is Yana Wilson, 18 years old, just won in
Mm.
Vegas. She's just, a great player. So I wouldn't be surprised if you don't see her name on the Epson Tour next year. But there's a few players that have just been playing well. Lainey Fry's one as well. She's a rookie. Same thing kind of as Haley, where hasn't got in the winner's circle yet, only has one top 10, but she's made every cut and is
Yeah.
just an extremely consistent golfer. And you're just thinking, she just has a tournament where those 1 under rounds turn to 4 under rounds, 5 under rounds, and all of a sudden she's in the winner's circle or close to it. So there's some players like that definitely keep an eye on. And then, some veterans that you always have to keep an eye on are, Daniela Iacobelli. You never know when she's going to turn out around and, be in contention. So it depends for sure. But even like last week, like Sophia Popov, she has some Epson Tour
Yeah.
status, comes down, plays a great event. You never quite know. And we haven't had a repeat winner, but Brianna Chacon became our first 2-time winner over the past 2 seasons. She's been the first player who's won twice just over the past 2 seasons. So she's definitely one to keep an eye on as well, because when her game's on, she's proven multiple times that she can easily win a golf tournament.
Yeah, and it's funny because I think a lot of it too, and Cindy, you can attest this, seeing out in the LPGA is years ago, not to say that there wasn't competition, but now there's just so many people from all over the world, from every walk of life, that's coming into these events, that the skill level is just, I mean, I've never seen anything like. You watch these young ladies on TV and you just see the level of play and the consistency in that, and you wonder how anybody can win a tournament, because they're all so good. So you mentioned, obviously you got into golf and love the game, and that I don't know, you probably don't get a chance to play as much as maybe you'd like to, or at all. But do you think you've learned anything from watching the players? Like, have you kind of learned any tips about your own game? It's like, yeah, I maybe need to do a little more of that to see if it can set a spark in your game.
Yeah, it's honestly kind of funny too, is I did play a lot more in college and stuff like that, when you have to do, your players' abilities test to get your PGA card and all that stuff. So did play a lot more then, but I would say it is kind of bluntly, the biggest thing is just don't be stupid out there. Is one of the biggest things you learn when you're watching professional golf. I mean, yeah, they hit a lot of good shots, but it's not really the good shots that impress me. It's where the bad shots, their quote unquote bad shots, end up is the impressive part. Their bad shots aren't all that bad in the grand scheme of things.
Sure.
And I think that's kind of the main thing, is a lot of course management stuff has been what I've noticed out there. That is, sometimes par's a good score. You don't need to fire at the pin that's tucked behind a bunker that's 3 paces to the right. Like, you can just hit it 30 feet to the left, maybe make a putt, and if you don't, just leave with a par. Like, don't need to short side yourself and have all those problems and everything that comes with it. So I think that's been one of the bigger things, even though we all know that. It's just more seeing it play out in live time and being like, oh yeah, I guess that does look a lot easier than what I've been doing. Because we all want to make birdies, and the only way
Right.
to make birdies, you feel like sometimes is to hit it close. So you always want to try to hit it close. So, but yeah, I think that's been the biggest thing. Is just for me is just we call it the kiss out here is keep it simple, stupid. So I think that's what.
Around for a while.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm sure
But
it's not the first time.
no, but you raise a great point because a lot of the players, I think it comes with experience. I think when they first come out there on tour or they're first getting into professional golf, I think a lot of them it's just go go go. They want to fire at the pin all the time, and then reality sets in when they start looking at the challenges that they're faced with and realize just how tough it is, and especially under competition. I mean, it's one thing out there in a practice round, you're just sort of having some fun, but now where you're in the heat of competition, you've got however many other girls breathing down your neck. Suddenly those 4 or 5 putts are become knee knockers because you've got to make that just to save your par. So, but interesting. Cindy, go ahead.
What do you do for fun when you have to leave the course at noon and do something else?
It depends where we're at. Sometimes when maybe we're in El Dorado, Arkansas, where there's not too much to do, you're just kind of, hanging out with some of your coworkers. Maybe, especially like in the fall, a lot of people out here are big football fans. So during the weekends, maybe go catch a football game, or if it's Thursday night, go somewhere, maybe get some dinner and watch some football. But when we're in places like this, funny enough, we on our drive up here, we decided to drive me and a few coworkers because you can drive through the Grand Canyon. So we decided to go
Oh,
to the
wow.
Grand Canyon
Oh,
and do that. And last week or a couple weeks ago, we were in California. We went to Joshua Tree, did some hikes. So just something to kind of get your mind off of golf. But when I'm home in Dallas, I do still like to play because that's the only time I kind of get to play. I bring my clubs, throw them on our truck, and then if I have some time out here when there is some extra time, I do like to maybe go sneak out and play some golf. But that happens far and few between. But I always have them ready just in case.
great.
That's fantastic. Let me just ask you as we get ready to wrap up. If somebody wanted to, can anybody get tickets if they want to see an Epson Tour event? Are they available? And if so, where would our listeners go if they wanted to maybe catch an event that's coming to their area?
Yeah, so it's all course dependent, course and facility dependent. So this week there is tickets at Copper Rock, and there's the copperrockchampionship.com. You can get tickets there. There's a VIP section. There's just general admission tickets where you can wander around. But I would say 70 to 80% of the tournaments are just kind of show up and,
Okay.
have fun out there. There is a lot of, like vending and stuff like that, but a lot of the time it is just show up and then go watch some great golf. So it is dependent. If you check the website, when you go to the leaderboard, there'll be a tickets link if there is tickets available for the event. And I would say almost general admission tickets, they never go more than about $5. So, and a
Okay.
lot of
That's
the times it's kids get in free as well. So I try to make it as accessible as possible for people if they have, a family, maybe, a daughter who wants to go see a specific player, whatever it is. Try to
Sure.
make that as accessible as possible for them. So, yeah, that's most of the time I would say admission is generally free, but every now and then it's $5
But it's
to get in.
yeah, but that's nothing. So, what's the website just for people to know? Is it just epsontour.com or?
Yeah, it'll be epsontour.com, and you can hit the leaderboard, and then it'll tell you there. It'll give you a direct link to buy tickets if tickets are necessary. So it'll be somewhere on there. And then if not, usually the tournament has its own website, and it's usually just very simple. Like this one, I think is just copperrockchampionship.com. So, and
Yeah,
then
so
I
they
think that is usually linked as well. Yeah.
yeah, they can just check the schedule and find out. Okay, well, great. Well, listen, thank you very much for joining us this morning. We're going to get you to hang tight for just a quick a second or two as we get ready to close off this segment. We're going to take a quick commercial break. And when we come back, Cindy and I are going to jump into the No B.S. zone, and we're going to talk about better ball striking. But we want to thank our very special guest, Luke Otto from the Epson Tour, for joining us this morning. And just keep doing the great stuff, Luke, and keep sending some players our way. We love speaking with the young ladies and hearing their story and having them share it with our audience. But thank you very much for joining us. But as I said, hang on for 1 second and we'll be right back.
Improve your putting with the Alignment Ball Marker, a revolutionary new in-game putting alignment tool and ball marker. Its patented design allows you to reach your putt and adjust your alignment at the same time by using your putter, which improves your accuracy and makes the process of putting faster. 100% legal according to the USGA, by their definition, permitted under the rules of golf. Winner of Best New Product at the PGA Show and only $9.99 on Amazon. And it's also completely customizable for any golf event or as a promotional giveaway. Order at alignmentballmark.com.
All right, welcome back, everybody. And you're joining Cindy and I here on the Women of Golf. And we're really, really excited. Again, want to special thanks to our guest this morning, Luke Otto, content producer, from the Epson Tour. I want to thank him for joining us. But now, Cindy, it's time to dip our toes in the sand, as it were. Actually, not the sand, but on the golf course in the No B.S zone. And always look forward to these. It's always a little bit interesting. And we're going to talk about better ball striking. And I know there's a lot of components to this, but we're just going to talk about a few this morning. This was a conversation we were going to have a couple of weeks ago, and unfortunately, we weren't able to pull it together in time. So we're going to have it this morning. But so really, let me just sort of lay this out, and then we'll get into it. To improve ball striking, there's a number of different things. You obviously need to make sure you're focusing on your ball position, things like your shoulder rotation, as an example, especially through impact, is important, and also the club face, your tempo, timing, that sort of thing. So there's a lot of different components. We're going to go through a couple of these, and I want to get your thoughts on this, Cindy, because I know this is something important for you. Is you always talk about becoming a better ball striker, and especially when it comes to the club face. A lot of people have difficulty squaring that club face, and they're hitting it all over the golf course. So I know that's something that you particularly like to work on. But let's talk about the ball position, because this is, I think, is in your stance, I think is crucial, because it really can affect the angle of attack on the ball. A lot of players get into a situation where they move the ball way too far back in their stance, and they're almost chopping down on the golf ball. So ball position, do you have a position that you like to place it? Some like to place maybe just a couple of inches, a couple of balls inside the left heel, and then just move their feet accordingly, depending on the club they're playing. Or some like to move it further back in the middle of their stance, and some like to move it up. Do you have a consistent ball position when you play, as an example? And if so, why?
Yes. When I tell people how to set up, I tell you to let your arm hang by your side and then bow over. And when you do that and your hands are on the club and the club face is square, the ball should be at the bottom of that triangle. Mm-hmm. And if you move it back, the face is open. If you move it too far forward, the face is shut. So when you do that and you have your hands on the club and you bow over, that's where the ball should be, because the face is square. And the face is square when the two lines on the front of the face are straight. Mm-hmm. So you don't have to think about it. When I was little, I would have people say, oh, no. Your 9 iron is way back here, then your 8, then your 7, then your 6, then your 5. And Right. It was way too left brain. And I got so confused because I thought, oh, my God, I'm off by half an inch, and now I'm not going to hit it good. And it made me nuts, because then I thought, oh, I can't swing because the ball's too far back or too far forward or whatever. And then I was like, you're thinking too much. So put your hands on the club, bow over, the ball should be there if the face is straight, which is going to be way more forward than you think it should be. So you really can't play it too far forward. You can play it too far back. And if it's too far back, you're going to dig to China and hit it fat, and it's not going to be good.
Yeah, and you're exactly right, because I've heard that a lot too in the past. People talk about, well, you move it back a little bit for each club, or you move it up for different clubs and things like that. And the problem is, what you're trying to do is you're trying to find the bottom of your swing, because that's where you're going to make good impact. If the ball is too far back and the bottom of your swing is, let's say, 2 balls forward, then what's going to happen is, yes, you're going to make contact with the ball, but you're going to come in at such, as I mentioned, such a steep impact that you're going to end up hitting it and chunking it, because you're not going to really make as good a contact as you think. So, you want to be able to have a consistency with that. And again, if you're dealing with different clubs, like your longer irons, you're going to have a slightly wider stance than what you would, let's say, with your wedges or some of your shorter irons. But the ball is going to essentially be in the same position relative, as you pointed out, to how you're laying down that club face. And I think a lot of people, if they would be consistent, and this is why it's so important, Cindy, I think, for a lot of our players out there, especially our amateur players, to get out there and work on these things. When they're up in a practice session, not a warm-up before a round, but a practice session, you need to work on these things and develop some consistency, because the more consistent that you become in doing that and getting that right ball position, the more consistent a player you're going to be. And if you're just sort of guessing each time and you're not really working on any of that, and you're just focused on, well, how's the ball going to go, or we're looking at the ball flight or what have you, those are certainly important too, but you've got to be careful of that and make sure that you're working on that ball position. And that's something Nicholas and many other top players over the years have always done, is to make sure that they're working on those fundamentals, and ball position was one of them, is getting it in the right place each and every time. So great point. Shoulder rotation. What I'm talking about here, Cindy, this is one, and I know you've seen this with a lot of your students that you're working with, is they think that if they just move the arms, and the arms are crossing over the chest, but they're not really rotating their shoulders, they're not actually making a turn in the backswing. So, and I don't know, people may not be able to see this very well, but, I'm going to put my hands up here. You need to actually rotate your upper body. So you need to rotate your shoulders along with your arms. If you're just pulling your arms back, and your left arm, for right-handed golfers, is just coming across your chest, but your shoulders are not actually rotating, then you're not rotating the shoulders at all. And what ultimately ends up happening is, as you unwind, you're going to actually push, your right shoulder is going to go out, and you're going to cut across the ball, and you're going to have that nice big old slice or banana ball, as they talk about it. So do you do anything special? Do you do any drills, Cindy, that you can think of to really help your students kind of get that shoulder rotation?
So I believe if you swing the club head the right way, your shoulders will turn. Mm-hmm. So I don't try to get people just to turn their shoulders, because then they don't swing the club.
Right.
So I believe if I teach you to swing the club head, then the shoulders will turn. Mm-hmm. So I believe, again, in the club face, because the club face hits the ball, and so many people, if they just try to swing or turn their shoulders, then they don't swing the head, and then they still chunk it because they're just doing the turn.
Right.
So if I swing, and I swing it wide enough, then the shoulders go with it, and then you're going to swing it bigger, and then you're going to hit it farther, and everything's going to work together. So I don't try to turn. I think the turn happens because you swing the face bigger, wider, and then everything works together better.
Yeah. So it's as a result of swinging the club.
Yes.
As opposed to you're exactly right. I should probably have prefaced that. I don't want people to misunderstand and think that I'm just talking about turning the shoulders. My point really, I guess, was really just to say that if the shoulders are not rotating, then you're not going to really complete the backswing, and you're going to just end up moving your arms only, and your body's not following. And a lot of people do that because they've been told that I've got to stay centered over the ball, I've got to keep my head down, I've got to do that. So they're just turning, and they're actually lifting their arms up into place. They're not.
Yeah, I don't want that.
Yeah, they're chopping like backs. Yeah, exactly.
I need you to swing wider, and the arms are going to go. The arm's going to pull the shoulder to make it move, and that's what we want.
Yeah. Another one is tempo. People overlook that. Now, in some cases, you may need to speed up your tempo. It depends on the individual player. Some players are a little slower, a little more methodical, like an Ernie Els or a Freddie Couples, and then you get somebody like a Nick Price who walks a mile a minute and very quick pace. I'm sure there's many ladies on the LPGA that are like that as well. So you have to find your right tempo. So you might need to speed it up, or you might need to slow it down. And obviously, how fast you swing the club, as you point out, is going to help to improve your ball striking. Any thoughts here?
Again, it depends on the type of person you are. If you're a typically slower person, it might be 1 and 2. I'm a speeding lunatic, so it's 1 and 2. I'm a faster song. I ask people when they come in, did you play an instrument when you were little? No. Were you in chorus? No. Do you have to be drunk to dance? No. I said, okay, so let's dance. So again, it's all about rhythm, and music is real important. So it's not 1, 2, it's 1 and 2. We got to feel it at the top.
Yeah.
So yes, rhythm is very, very important, and you have to feel it at the top or hear it. So I do an audio-visual kinesthetic assessment with people. Do you want to see it, feel it, or hear it? And that will help you, if you have to see it, okay, well, let's see the glove at the back of your backswing. I want you to see what's on the back of your glove. Or it's an audio swing, hinge, kill, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. And tempo and obviously timing comes in that as well. And a lot of people don't. I mean, I think one of the biggest mistakes, I think a lot of players, I mean, it's good to watch other players, especially if you're an amateur watching professionals, just to kind of get a better understanding. But I think one of the biggest mistakes that a lot of amateurs have made is they try to emulate a player. And the problem is if the player they're emulating is operating at a different cadence than they are. So if you're somebody like you that's a little bit quicker and you're trying to emulate a Freddie Couples, let's say, it's not going to happen, or vice versa. And we see that all the time. And I'm sure you see that. So when you've got somebody like that, where, they're clearly out of their rhythm, how do you help them? And you gave some good examples a moment ago, but how do you help them understand that and say, okay, yeah, it's nice. You love watching that player and it's great to pick up some tips, but their body rhythm is different than yours. What's that?
Well, it's funny that you say that, because the first time I ever saw Alan Miller, who I ended up marrying, I was on the golf team at the University of Miami, and he was playing in a PGA Tour event in Miami at Doral. And I saw him swing, and I was like, does anybody swing that slow? And it was like 1 and 2. And I was like, whoa, I got to watch this again. And because he's like Ernie Els, 1 and 2, he doesn't do anything fast. The guy's never had a speeding ticket. And so, but it made me aware that, Cindy, you don't have to swing like a lunatic.
Yeah.
So there's the first catch. Go look in the mirror. You're swinging way too fast. You don't have to do this that fast. Now, maybe I should find someone, a little more like Lee Trevino, who's a little speedier, a lot speedier than Alan, doesn't have anything like that swing, but does it way faster. Okay, so you need to find someone that swings in your cadence and then watch their tempo. And I must tell you, the best thing you could ever do is go to an LPGA or an Epson Tour event and just stand on the driving range, and you'll be like,
yeah,
how do they hit it that far? And these little peanuts that are 5'2" that hit it 270, you're going to want to walk up and slap them, because they just kill it, and they're 100 pounds and beat the snot out of it with no effort.
Yeah, it's so true. I think one of the very first times ever I went to a PGA event and I watched these guys, and it was just amazing. Just with very little effort, at least, from a visual standpoint, and you're watching these people and they're just, and the reason I mention them so often is, not so much Ernie, but Freddie. I remember, back up in Canada, I used to go to the Canadian Open all the time. And, Freddie, when he was still playing a lot at that time at the regular tour, he would come up to the Canadian Open in Oakville, Ontario. And he would just, it almost seemed like he stopped at the top of it, and which he does. There is a slight pause in his swing, and then he would just pull the trigger, and that club, face, and that would come down into the back of the ball, and it would just, you wouldn't even see it take off. It was just so fast. But his rhythm and his tempo was so slow. And I remember, and I know a lot of my friends we tried to emulate Freddie. I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it because I'm, I walk a little bit, quicker and whatnot than he does. I'm not real fast, but, pretty quick. And I tried doing it. And what I found for me is it would throw my timing off.
Yeah.
I mean, it looked cool. It was kind of neat. And I mean, the balls were going all over the place. And my friends know we tried to do that. And it was the same thing, I mean, it's silly, but, doing the Happy Gilmore. I mean, it's the same thing, trying
Right.
to do that. You just can't do it if you don't
Right.
have that. So, you have to find that. And that's a great point. Watch the events, watch somebody that kind of has a rhythm like you. But I think to find your timing is pay attention when you go for a walk. Do you walk pretty quick? Do you have a pretty quick pace, or are you kind of just going through the motions, and that kind of gives you an idea of your body rhythm. And if that's the case, it's okay to watch a player that is a little bit slow and methodical like that, and you can pick up some tips. You don't have to emulate this swing exactly, but that gives you an idea. But I also think too, if you're swinging the club, swing it at about 50%, and then gradually build that up just a little bit until you get to the point where you're about to feel like you're about to fall out of your shoes, and then back it up a little bit. And that's pretty much where you need to be. That's how I've always found it to be successful. And I think if you're somebody that can keep going and keep going and keep going, and you're not getting out of balance, then I think you typically have a little bit faster cadence. If you're somebody that's very slow and you kind of build that up too quickly or too fast, then you're going to find you're wobbling and you're all over the place. So that to me is another way of sort of asking, but go for a walk. Just go for a walk and just pay attention to how you walk. Are you quick pace? Or are you slow pace? And that usually gives you an idea of what your cadence is. So great point. Last one is your favorite, of course, club face. You touched on a little bit earlier. What do we need to do about the club face? This is something that a lot of people do not understand. Give us the skinny on that.
So the face has to be square, and the face is square when the two lines on an iron are pointed straight ahead. I never knew that. I thought the face had to sit down, and I don't have an iron sitting here. I wish I did, but the two lines where the grooves end, there's two vertical lines, and they have to sit straight. I thought that the face had to sit down, and if it does, then the face is shut. So they got to sit straight. And what I tell people when they haven't been in before, we start hitting little tiny baby chip shots. Sometimes I just have them hit a shot one-handed as if they're tossing a ball underhanded straight ahead. And they're looking at me like, why are we doing this? And I'm like, well, number one, we're going to hit these little chips and then we're going to pick these balls up so you don't have to buy another bucket. And I said, see how we're hitting it clean, airborne, and straight on purpose? Yeah. I go, we're starting a baby swing so we can do that, and it's going to go straight right in front of you. Oh, and we're hitting like a 5-yard chip. Yeah. Okay. Now we're going to hit a 10-yard chip, then a 20-yard chip, then a 30-yard chip. Now we're going to open the face and make it go higher. Now we're hitting a pitch shot. Oh, okay. Now we're going to hit a little bigger shot. Oh, okay. Oh, now I said this is a small version of a big swing.
Right.
So that's how we're going to do this, rather than, I want to hit my driver. People don't get it, that it's a small version of a big swing. So.
Yeah, and that's why, it goes back to what we've talked about before, why it's so important to really focus on the short game, because the short game is really where you learn the long game. If you do it right, because again, you're taking those mini swings, you're developing your rhythm, you're developing your tempo and timing. And then as you get into the full swing, all it's a matter of just you're rotating back a little bit further. You're taking that club face back a little bit further each time, depending on your club. And eventually you get up to the driver. Everybody seems to always want to learn the game in reverse. They want to hit that big stick first, and then they don't end up having anything to when it comes to the short game. And if you look at what's interesting, our guest earlier, Luke, mentioned something about some of the players, how he said one of the things that he noticed was not so much their great shots, but it's how their not so great shots ended up and how they handled that. And that's really what you have to decide. Do you want to be a great ball striker, or do you want to be a great player? And there's a difference. There's many, we've given examples on the show before. There's a lot of great ball strikers out there on the PGA and even the LPGA Tour, but they're not real great players. And what I mean by that is they're not winning tournaments very much. They're hitting some great scores. They're probably beating most amateurs, but they're not scoring in the top 10 very often, because they don't know how to put it all together. They know how to hit a great ball, but they don't know how to get it all together. So I think, we need to really teach people to become better players. And, great work on your ball striking, get it straight, clean and airborne. But at the same time, you have to learn to become a better player if you want to score better. And the only way to do that is to work on the shorter part of your game as well, a lot more than you do on the tee shots, because You can put it in the middle of the fairway, but if you can't do anything beyond that, then you're not going to be accurate. But so really it goes back to just a few points. Ball position is a point, rotation, and again, swinging the club back properly, your tempo and timing, and obviously your club face. And I know there's a few other things that we could get into, but those are really the key things that you need to focus on if you want to be a better ball striker. And the only way to do that, Cindy, of course, is to get your butt out to the driving range with your pro, work on those things. And if you're struggling in an area like that and you're finding it, then that's a conversation you need to have and say, let's put a game plan together, put something together for me, because I want to be able to hit the ball clean, straight, and airborne. And I think that that's what people need to do and focus on that. And how you get about doing that is working with your pro. So I think that's about it. Now, Cindy, a couple of things I want to get you to talk about real quick before we wrap up. I know you got to go. Very quickly, you mentioned not too long ago you were inducted into the University of Miami's Hall of Fame, Sports Hall of Fame. And I heard you say earlier that you're going to be now in the LPGA Hall of Fame. Tell us about that.
We are leaving this in a little bit to go to Florida, but it's going to be at the Hard Rock Hotel this weekend. The LPGA Professionals Hall of Fame, and Marvel Bernard and I are being inducted in the LPGA Professionals Hall of Fame, which is really pretty cool this weekend.
Congratulations.
So it's a big weekend. And I have to can I give a shameless plug for my book?
That was going to be my next point. Yes.
It came out. Yeah. Take another shot at business, golf, or life. And it's on Amazon, so go buy it.
Fantastic.
It's awesome. Yeah, there's 18 chapters, 18 stories on what I needed to do to become successful.
That you have. Well, congratulations. And
Thank you.
We'll talk a little bit more about the Hall of Fame the next time you're back on after you've been there, and you can tell us all about that. And we'll keep plugging that book. But thank you very much, as always. And thank again to our special guest, Luke Otto, for joining us this morning. And we want to thank you for tuning in each and every week. And we'll see you next time here on the Women of Golf. God bless everybody and have a great week.
Thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoyed listening to this week's Women of Golf show. Ted and Cindy wish to thank this week's special guests. Remember to join them every Tuesday from 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern, here on the iGolf Sports Network, or on any of these social media platforms: iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, CastBox, TalkStream Live, and of course Spotify. To get updates on the show, you can follow the Women of Golf's Facebook page at www.facebook.com/womenofgolf. This has been a production of the iGolf Sports Network.